This is Coda Radio, episode 29, recorded on December 19th, 2012. Hi everyone, you're listening to Coda Radio, Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly talk show, taking a pragmatic look at the art and business of software development and sometimes games. My name is Chris, and joining us every single week is our host, Michael Dominic. Hello, Mr. Dominic.
Mario, I am lost in a mansion again.
Mario's not an indie game at all. Besides, don't you know the princess is always in the next castle over?
Mario is the backbone of this country. He's an independent small businessman running a boutique plumbing agency.
And then he just kind of gets wrapped up in some shenanigans.
It's just, everybody, he's being oppressed.
You're right. He's sort of like the ultimate indie, isn't he? Maybe that's why he's made such an impression on you, being an indie developer yourself.
I love Super Mario.
So we kind of have a special episode this week. We're recording it early. We normally do these shows on Mondays, but since next Monday is like Christmas or Christmas Eve, I believe we decided we'd make room and record it earlier. So we're doing this on Wednesday the 19th. We have kind of a special episode planned, don't we?
We do, and what's really special is because it's December, there is of course no hoopla, and because the last episode was only 2 days ago, there's virtually no feedback.
Right. But we're going to make the best of it.
I think that's great. I love the feedback, but this should be, I don't want to jinx it, actually only an hour long.
Right, and at the end of it, I think some folks are going to walk away with a new appreciation for indie gaming. I hope, at least, some new thoughts on it. I think it's going to be an interesting discussion. We've actually, a little behind-the-scenes secret. I shouldn't tell anybody, because then it's not a secret. But we actually once did an unaired episode, just like a mock show called Gamer Radio. And we had a lot of fun, and we thought, boy, there's a few things we really enjoyed doing from that we could actually take and put in the show as like a special occasion kind of thing.
I have no clear recollection of this event, Mr. Senator.
I believe it's all rumor. I plead the fifth. Speculation. Now, we do actually have like one bit of feedback before we go on, right?
Just one.
Okay.
Everybody gets just one.
That's cool. That keeps it traditional.
Nehemiah is keeping me honest, and yes, I butchered his name. He wants to know why I didn't recommend Boost++, or just Boost, as it's properly called, to last week's, Monday's listener with the C++ question.
Yeah.
So the reason for that is twofold. I forgot.
Oh.
And the more legitimate reason would be he seemed to want to get away from big frameworks. Now, the argument whether Boost is big or not, So yes, listener from last week, you could use Boost if you wanted to. One thing that's interesting is I found that in the new C++ 11, I find myself less wanting to use Boost. But I just hate dependencies, so that might be the issue.
Yeah, because he was kind of having an issue with how he kind of just felt like he was becoming a Qt developer, right? Isn't this that
right,
email? And
because with stock C++, it's not like Python, right? There's no batteries included.
Yeah, right.
So you're going to need to use external libraries, realistically, but I don't know, I prefer to use a few little ones or even roll my own, open source them, and keep using them.
See, when you say that sounds like when I move into a new house and I have all these amazing plans, and then I never really get most of them done. Like, I look around my room, I've got like a couple of pieces of art on the wall, and I had all these amazing plans to build something really unique and all that. It never actually happens. Isn't that kind of like saying I'm going to write my own library? Like, you have all these amazing plans for the functionality and why you'd want to build it yourself, but do you actually ever do it?
So ironically enough, I just started doing it.
Okay.
It's called Espresso. It's on GitHub, but there's only like one file in there right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I may very well never get it to a point where it's finished. It's just you'll find over time that you keep doing the same things over and over again.
Yeah, I could see that.
If you're OCD, you might like things to be a certain way, and you don't want to keep learning someone else's frameworks or.
There is some serious advantage to that. I could definitely see that, especially if you know you're going to be doing this more than a few times.
Well, there's also the practical advantage of if you're bidding on projects and you have this library you can bring in.
Yeah, you can bang things out a little faster. Yeah. You can cut down on the rate you're going to have to charge them, which makes you more competitive. Your dog agrees with us quite a bit.
My dog is very angry because I'm sure a Jehovah's Witness just knocked on my door.
It is funny because when we record on off days, like the universe isn't used to it. Like I almost always have like a package show up or something like that. So what I do is I just lock my entire family in a closet during each show.
Yeah, unfortunately, my dog is not going to stop.
No, it's okay.
So why don't you bring us up to speed on the Steam box for a minute?
All right, so
and I'll go him down.
All right, okay, that sounds good. So one of the things that Valve talked about, and we talked a little bit about this on the Linux Action show, is Gabe was doing an interview, and I can't remember if it might have been Bloomberg or somebody, and he said, yeah, we're going to work on a next-generation console box, and this console box will compete with the big boys. It's going to be PC-based, but we're going to have a little more control over the hardware, and we're going to be able to brand it, and it likely will run Linux, too, which I think is an interesting element to all of this. Of course, we don't know if that's... He was a little dodgy on that. What Gabe said... When he confirmed that they were working on the living room friendly PC that'll run Steam, he said that they still have some work to do, but they feel like they can move forward now that Steam for Linux is coming out of beta or something like that. He said something to the effect of first priority is to get Steam for Linux out of beta, and then we're going to move forward on this or something. So it kind of implied that the Steam box would probably be running maybe Ubuntu or something like that.
Right, and that's the prediction I think I made months ago.
Yeah.
That this was really the end game, right? That, sorry, Ubuntu users, you guys are the beta testers. Have fun.
Well, I think it's like a win-win. They're like, well, we can sell to every Ubuntu desktop, sure. And we at the same time. I mean, why else? Not why else, but it's definitely a compelling reason to work so closely with ATI and NVIDIA and Intel on this kind of stuff, because if you're going to be building a box, it's probably behooves you to have the hardware support as best as possible for that platform.
Now let me ask you, have you heard anything about price?
No. And what could the market bear here?
Well, that's the thing. That's kind of why I think it has to be Linux as well, right? Because would Microsoft be willing to license Windows for something like this?
I don't think so, but I mean, from a completely...
Maybe you can... I don't know. Maybe you can just buy a license to Windows and do whatever you want. But
from a completely practical standpoint, it seems like they would have access to a much larger catalog of games. But
it seems like you'd add $50 or whatever the Windows license is these days for an OEM right to the top of the price.
What if they did something like, okay, we have a Steam box. This is the Valve Steam box. It's Valve branded hardware. It's awesome. It hooks right up. It's super easy to use. Boots right into big picture mode, right? It's great. But if you want to roll your own Windows box, throw Steam on there and put it in big picture mode, have at it.
That's what they do. You can do that now.
I know. So it doesn't. So what I'm saying is that means it doesn't have to run Windows. Like they can leave if you want all the Windows stuff. You can build that yourself, and ideally, the stuff will be more and more games will be targeted for the Linux version, and they'll be specifically, they'll have controller best controller based games, and they'll have that highlighted, and all of those will be Linux compatible because they'll want to run on the Steam box. Wait, but they'll also be available for Windows. I think
so. Yeah, again. To date, according to Steam's terms, if you want to be in Steam, you must support Windows Vista and 7.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. By now, it's got to be Windows 8 and 7, right?
I wonder if that'll change. Do you think?
No. Because it wouldn't make business sense, right? I mean, what I think they'll do is, great example, medium-sized studios like the studio who developed XCOM, which is an awesome Xbox and Steam game. It's kind of have you played it, Chris? It's kind of an action strategy RPG.
The new one that just came out or the old one?
The new one.
I played just for about 20 minutes the demo.
You did? Okay, you didn't like it?
No, I did. It's just I think it takes more time than I have available to put into it. But I thought it was really well done.
Yeah, see, I think that's the size and type of company they'll try and, shall we say, sweet talk or entice.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. And those are still very good games.
Right, because it's, they don't really have a bargaining chip with EA and Activision, but small to medium-sized companies, this could be a great market, especially So we're looking at new consoles this coming Christmas, not this Christmas, the following Christmas.
Right. We'll probably see announcements this year. Or I'm sorry, next 2013.
Right, and I think we'll see consoles for Christmas.
I hope so.
I just can't. I mean, I would be shocked. What if the market for Steam is, you could buy a $500 PS4 or whatever it's going to be called, and we're saying hopefully 500, right? They may price it at $6. We know how they get. Or you can buy the $200 Steam box or $300 Steam box. That ties in very nicely with your Steam account and your existing library of Steam games.
Yeah, you gotta wonder, would the Steam box rob the console games like the iPhones and Android devices have been robbing the DS and PSP?
So I have a crazy theory. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah.
I think the days of console publishing being a backdoor negotiation for tens of thousands of dollars for a license, and then in the case of Microsoft, $40,000 to push an update, are coming to an end very quickly. I would be willing to bet, if maybe not at launch, but at some point during the next generation, so that's like the next 10 years, they will open up XBLA and PSN to be just like the App Store. Where it'll be a little more expensive. So it might be a $5,000 fee to get the license, rather than a $100 fee. But right now it's tens of thousands. Plus you have to go into meetings. You have to make a separate deal with them. It's a very difficult business to be in. And you can look at this. Nintendo is kind of doing this with the 3DS, but even then, it's just a very, very hard business to be in.
See, it just doesn't seem sustainable. With the app stores that we do have now, and with Valve coming into this, if they can do for console sales what they've done for PC sales, I mean, they have given access to indie developers and have given them this platform to sell from, which will fundamentally eat away at the business model around Xbox Live and the PlayStation Network. That whole way they're structured, it presumes such a high level of revenue that must be generated by the person submitting the title, that if you can't achieve a certain nut, it just doesn't pay off. Whereas with Steam or the app stores, there's a much, much cheaper barrier to entry, in some cases free.
So let's not conflate Steam and the app stores, right?
Well, I think
Steam is less restrictive than the traditional console market. They still have a pretty, unless you're doing Greenlight, which
right.
I have mixed feelings about, to be honest. Their process, I've been a party to it once, is very. They're like the little brother to the big consoles, right? They're not as hardcore, but they want to see that you've been in business. They want to see that you have cash on hand. They don't want to have they don't want to have you disappear.
Okay, yeah.
And when it's, maybe I shouldn't put it like this, but it's almost like getting an investor for a startup. They want to see, do these people have, quote, real game industry experience? Now, that was years ago. They may have lightened up, and I hope they have.
Well, I just really mean in terms of comparatively to getting to the other guys, the other guys are going to have to become more competitive.
Yeah, relative to Microsoft and Sony, but they are still. There's a lot more red tape in dealing with them than dealing with even Apple.
Right.
Now that may have changed. I mean, back then they also didn't really have all these quirky free-to-play games. So they've certainly changed their tune on a lot of things.
Yeah, they have been.
So I could be wrong, and if anybody from Valve is there, my information's out of date. Feel free to tell me what the new process is. Yeah,
it's gonna be.
I don't want to get into the Greenlight discussion because we've had that discussion, and like I was browsing it for the show notes this morning. Not of the approved ones, but of the proposed ones, I've seen a lot of crap.
Have you heard about some of the people they have working at Valve on the Steam box?
They got some pretty heavy hitters. I've heard that.
Yeah, they have people who are really, really famous, and then they also have people who are just really brilliant, like Jerry Ellsworth, who has created some really cool hardware, and they have people who are brilliant when it comes to controller design working there. I mean, if Valve is very serious about this, and I think the way they've been working on Linux and sort of laying down the foundation, laying down the groundwork now for 2 years almost, just before they even really start working on this thing, really shows you how serious they are.
Yeah, I think this is a great opportunity for new devs. I don't mean to put down Steam. I'm just a touch bitter. I mean, let's be real. I backed Ouya, and it looks like I backed a loser.
You think the Steam box?
I think anybody who pours resources into Ouya now needs to. And I'm not saying I'm pulling back. I'm just.
Sounds like you're pulling back. I mean,
I'm taking a few weeks. I'm taking a week's vacation to see what is what.
You know, so the Ouya, the thing that's interesting about it is they've already generated quite a bit of buzz just based on the level of funding they received. They made $8.5 million on Kickstarter.
Yeah, that's undeniable.
And so just that has caused people to sort of want to attach themselves to the project. I saw a headline from a game developer who says, we're going to be a launch title for the Ouya, and we're very excited. You know, so people are getting excited. And I go back to my original criticism about the Ouya was they showed icons for game titles they didn't actually have agreements with during their promo videos. The Android hardware is a little lackluster in my opinion. Also, I don't know if we've totally bared out that Android is a great gaming platform, although I think just since Ouya was first announced till now that's actually sort of already been kind of cleared up.
Yeah, I don't think that's a valid point. I don't think the hardware or the
well, I would argue, you know, when you're dealing with limited hardware and then you're running all of that in an emulation layer, that's like sort of bad mixed with bad. But
I mean, they have like
on the
what,
game,
2
right?
gigs of RAM, a gig of RAM. I don't remember I think it's 2, right?
I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm sure that'll be fine.
That's a lot. I mean, that's enough. Even if the game can only access only 1 gig.
I would bet the Ouya, because of that though, will be the cheaper box between the Steam box and the Ouya. I bet this one goes in cheaper.
The Ouya is $100. Yeah.
Yeah, and you got to figure it's still going to be a more accessible platform for indie game developers. If the hardware works and there's a good marketplace, don't you think they're going to be more willing to work with the small guy than say Valve?
No.
Oh.
So they have a philosophy, and you have to buy into their philosophy. Right off the bat, your game must be free to play. Or have some free content.
Oh.
So right there, you're adopting a business model that requires some sort of infrastructure to handle microtransactions, to handle, all the obnoxious receipt validating. Now, they do have some facilities on their end, it's my understanding, but it's not. This isn't just an Android box that you can go ahead and write your game to any way you like.
Mm.
They have rules. Like everybody else, like Apple, like Android, they're a platform vendor that can toss you out.
All games free to play.
Right.
That's a pretty big burden. I mean, I like it as a player.
Well, that's something you have to buy into, and I did fund this. I did back this.
The value there, as for me, if I buy a console for $100 and I know all the games are at least at some level going to be free to play, I like that as a player.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about that. So my issue was I backed this when there was no Steam box.
Mm.
And I'm wondering would it still have made that $8.5 million if Valve had announced the Steam box, right before Ouya came out.
It's a Tegra 3 quad-core, 1 gigabyte of RAM, 8 gigabytes of internal storage. It's got Bluetooth and 802.11 ABGN.
Okay, so let's just work with that, right? The Xbox 360 has, I believe, 560 or 512 megs of RAM. Let's say on the Ouya that they didn't do a good job with Android, because I always assume the worst of the platform vendor.
It does say it's Android 4.0, so...
But let's just say it leaks like a sieve. So you could probably only access half that RAM.
Right.
You can still do a lot.
You're right.
The limitation's going to be... So limitations from the Ouya are purely, is the Steam box going to kill mainstream interest? Is Ouya going to, facing stronger competition from Steam, release an Ouya 2 very quickly? And you're then going to have to deal with this weird, well, do I target the more powerful, or do I go with the weaker? It's one of those issues.
Really, though, what doesn't all it take is for Microsoft to go, boom, we're redoing Xbox Live Indie. We have an Xbox Live Indie area. You submit your thing, you can get in, and all of a sudden, they just wipe out Ouya with doing that?
So they can't do it with the 360. The
Why couldn't they?
It's the way Xbox so this is the story that has been posted, and I can't substantiate it, but it seems like a good reason.
Okay.
The way Xbox handles multitasking, there's security implications.
Oh.
So the reason there is an indie corner, but it has to run in their specific indie tools that, no C#, you can't access anything on the system. XBLA, they audit your code, they deal with it, they take care of it as though you were
and so there's the overhead.
My bet is that with this new Xbox and PS3 probably has the same issue. Because these things were designed when you knew your publishers, right?
Yeah, right. They were all big. Yeah,
they were designed almost 10 years ago. So this makes a lot of sense.
You were distributing games on DVD or
right.
Blu-ray.
Now I have a feeling this next generation will have just that. XBLA will be, although it'll probably do direct 2D instead of C#, just to raise that barrier of entry just a little bit, right? Just like they've done on Windows 8. But PSN and Xbox, I'm willing to bet will have something like this.
Yeah, it seems like they're gonna. There's no way they're not sitting here and watching Desura and Steam and all this kind of stuff and going, "Well, we need to get in on this."
Well, I mean, from a business point of view, though, they can't anger their partners too much, right? And Sony certainly can't.
I would argue, though, that they have enough cachet there, enough sway that they can. I mean, this to me, it seems like they could suck a lot of the oxygen out of this market.
They could, but you have to. Did you see the article this week that came out about why Xbox failed in Japan?
No.
It was a very good article about how the video game market is a business here. It's a business in Japan, but a lot of the relationships with the Japanese companies are personal relationships. And they, even if it's in their interest, avoid doing things that would hurt their partner. One great example was Resident Evil. The reason it came to the Wii U was there was a pre-existing relationship. And Microsoft approached them with a business argument instead of a artistic or creative argument, you could say. It's a really long but really good article.
Yeah, boy.
It kind of goes to, Nintendo sees games as toys. They gear everything towards children. Microsoft sees it as a business, and Sony, I don't know what the hell Sony does. They break Skyrim.
It is hard to tell where Sony's at. You're very apt though in describing it as Microsoft seeing it as a business, but I mean, not in a bad way. I mean, it's a business they have a lot of passion for, and they're honestly, I think it's one of the areas they're kind of being the most interesting as a company. But they are at the end of the day, they're all about the business,
and certainly they're both all about the business, right? I mean, Sony just cloned Super Smash Brothers because it made a ton of money. So there's not too much honor among thieves, but
right.
I see Sony being more resistant to this idea. Again, I hope I'm wrong. I have no horse in this race. I mean, I'll develop for whatever platform makes the most sense. And at the time, it was Ouya.
Okay, going back to Steam and Ouya.
Right.
The other advantage of the Steam box is you get to leverage their distribution on that, but you also get to leverage their distribution for all the other platforms, and to me that seems undeniable.
And we haven't even brought up the Steam source engine.
Right.
That itself, if they were to offer that, that's a killer feature, and that's enough to sway, I think, most, because that's a cross-platform engine where they've done a lot of the skunk work for you.
Yeah. So I'm looking at this is a game that neither one of you or I had heard of called Beat Hazard, right? And they've been out since 2010, and they've made $2 million as of the 26th of November. And
well done.
I know, right? And so very awesome for this guy. I mean,
that's awesome.
That's amazing. And so he wrote a little blog post about the background on how it happened and where a lot of the revenues came from. And I just thought this was interesting because he released this on Xbox Live, the PC, the Mac, the PlayStation 3, and iOS, and Android. So he breaks down sort of his total revenue over time. And what really blew me away with this is how far and above Steam dominates the profit margin for everything. I mean, I have, if you're watching the enhanced video feed, I have a chart up on the screen, and like the other guys don't even barely register. And that's even up against the only time there's a real competitor is towards the end when he gets featured in the iOS App Store, and then iOS almost brings in half of what Steam brings in, and to me, it's pretty interesting. He breaks it down even further from that. Steam represented 70% of his total revenue, Xbox 17%, wow. PlayStation 7, iOS 6.
Now, was there anything? Did he get some sort of special treatment in Steam? Like, did he launch on the front page, or is this organic?
You know, I didn't see anything in here talking about that. He was featured on iOS. He was featured in iOS, and so that's the only spot I mentioned. The only place I saw he mentioned that he was featured. I'm not sure about Steam. The one thing I thought was interesting is then he took out Steam because he thought, okay, if we take Steam out of the mix, then what do you get? Then Xbox Live and performs really well. iOS dominates though. PlayStation though, on average, generated overall more revenue than Xbox. So,
interesting.
Yeah, but it seems pretty neck and neck between the Xbox and the PlayStation. And iOS, you make a ton of money as long as you're featured, and then once you're featured, you can see here in the chart, it just drops like a rock.
Yeah. As soon as you're not on the front page, might as well pull the app. Yeah.
And so I'll link to this in the show notes because he also broke it down, EU versus US and things like that, so you guys can.
So that, you know what that is, Chris? That's hard data that says you were right to put more faith in the Steam box, right? Because now imagine that with the Steam box as yet another revenue source for lack of a better term, the Steam piece of that pizza pie.
And there's a clear path for there's if you want, there's Unity 3D, and if you make something in Unity 3D, it's going to work on Steam for Linux, Steam for Windows, and Steam for Mac.
Right. So and the investment there is about I think it's what $5,000 or $6,000 for the license to publish. So I mean, that's a lot of money for a one-man band, but in terms of getting into game development, that is not a large investment by any stretch of the imagination.
Right. I mean, that's close to what I used to have to pay for video editing software.
Right. I mean, not to downplay it, but in the grand scheme of things, it's nothing, right? Like, you can write that off and go on your merry way.
Mm-hmm. So the console, to me, it seems like they're only adding one more revenue there. It's revenue source there, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah,
I think either way, though, it's Ouya or what happens with the Xbox. It seems like either way, things are trending better for the indie game developer and getting on these platforms. Maybe the big dogs are going to be a little more behind than Valve and Ouya and things like that, but it's probably going to happen.
Yeah, and listen, for our listeners, it's not realistic to set out and target all these platforms. And if you're a one or even just a few man band, you don't need to make $2 million to make money.
Right.
So, maybe if you make 20 grand on the Ouya, maybe that's a success, depending on what your costs were. That might be good. I would probably not target both the Ouya and the Steam box because of what I'm guessing are going to be very different system architectures.
Well, and also sounds like pricing models, right? Because on Ouya, you're really going to be more about in-app.
No, I've embraced free-to-play. I'm at the point where I think that's the way to go. I don't like being compelled to come to that, if that makes sense.
It seems like there has been a precedent set, sort of like in the iOS store, where people just spend money to buy the stuff, and that's like Steam. Well, it might be $4, but people always, there's nothing really free in Steam, except for, the stuff that's free. But you know what I mean? Like
except for that whole section. Yeah.
Right. But it seems like people are much more familiar or comfortable with paying in Steam.
I would think so.
That's another advantage.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and unless, Steam, so Steam, you're covering Windows and Mac. Yeah, I would think that if you purchase something in Steam on the Steam box, you would also get it in your Steam library overall.
Right, and then it's going to sync up the levels with Steam Cloud that some do. Like Trine, for example. When I first got Trine on the Mac when it first came out, and then when they released it for Linux on Steam, I was able just to pick up right where I left off when I had played a few months ago.
And I think that might be the killer feature of the Steam box, now that you mention it, right?
Well, especially as people are moving between devices so much more. And this is why I would not be surprised to see them also come out with an Android app store down the road, too. If they can integrate Steam Cloud on my Android device,
just pull an Amazon on it. Oof.
Yeah, right? So you have the Steam Android App Store, which has some games that are available that are on my Steam box and on my Linux box and on my Windows desktop, and I can sync between all of them. See, this is a problem we have here in the Fisher household, Mr. Dominic, is my son is an Angry Birds fanatic, and it drives him crazy that we have 3 different tablets, and each tablet has different levels unlocked. And he doesn't understand why if he unlocks it on one, it's not immediately available on all of the other tablets.
Right.
And that's what Steam's going to bring.
I didn't even consider that, but if that happened, that would be that would be a game changer. I think that would change.
I mean, and why not? Like, I think people think of Steam as running away from these places that have built-in app stores because of Gabe's comments on Windows 8, but why not go at it and attack it and say, all right, well, you know what? Honestly, discoverability kind of stinks in the Play Store. So, boom, here's Steam. We're all about games, and, you know.
Well, not only that, it would be once you're approved for Steam, right? This could be their pitch. Don't deal with 5 different approval processes. Once you're approved with us, we've got you on Windows, Mac, the Steam box, Linux, and Android. One shot, one approval, you're done.
And we handle all your multiplayer backend across all platforms.
You only have to ever deal with one representative. We promise to be timely and courteous. I could see that. I mean, listen, from
and it's the same payment deal. You're getting the same payment deal. You're getting paid from the same source for all the different platforms. So
you don't have to chase. You don't have to keep chasing different analytics. This could be that would be amazing.
Yeah, they could do it too, and it would be
as long
harder.
as they don't create some kind of weird firewall between the Android and the rest.
Well, there's going to be some limitations, I would figure, but yeah.
Well, there's technical limitations, but I mean in terms of the business process.
The Amazon store is still not great, but it's not bad. It's just
I feel like a lot of its issues have to do with user interface. It's just not pretty enough.
Well, and I feel like it's a little clunky the way it downloads APKs, and then like I can keep browsing until the APK is downloaded, and then it installs, and then it rips me out of my browsing experience, and I have to interface with it. It doesn't just install in the background like the Play Store does. But these are all implementation details they could probably work out. And if I was Google, I'd be all about it.
But I don't think so. Amazon just released so this probably could have been in a hoopla section, but I forgot. They just released what might be called Game Center, right?
Amazon what's it called?
I don't remember the name. It's not Game Center. Amazon.
It's not Locker, right? No.
It's an API for developers.
Yeah, they're Game Center competitor for Kindle Fire. I heard about
Game Circle.
Game Circle. Right, that's what it was.
They were very daring with that name.
Yeah, Game Circle.
I knew it was very close.
Yeah.
It's not full featured yet, but they hint that they're coming out with a lot of things. One thing, they're doing exactly what you say, though. They're saving your state across your devices.
Nice.
Yeah, they have a little cute video.
Yep, and they also look like they support like doing achievements which would of course move across. That's cool.
They have the in-app purchase API,
leaderboards, and sync. Yep, this is a really smart move, and it's interesting because I can't remember if I heard this going back and forth. It was discussed on a podcast. Are they making this available to any Android developer, or is it only to people using?
So yeah, no.
Okay.
It has to be Amazon App Store.
See, that's just I think too narrow.
That's a lot of fragmentation, right?
Yeah, and
that's my only issue is Google's also rumored to be coming out with something like this. So are you going to have to do double the work? And it sounds like the answer is going to be yes.
Or I can look. So I think of like one of the reasons why the iPhone got such a lead in the smartphone marketplace was, first of all, they had first to market advantage. But second of all, they had all of the iTunes content totally loaded up and ready to go, like because of all of the work they've done with the iPod. And so all of a sudden you had this smartphone device that already had all this content to match it. And that was something that Google until really this year couldn't quite match. And same with Amazon. Now they've both matched it, but even then iTunes still has a much superior catalog. And Steam also has that same advantage. They have a huge back catalog of developers. They have already established revenue sources. They can really just roll in there and be like, okay, well, we're now going to this platform. And now all that same stuff you come to learn and expect on all the other places is available here.
Yeah. And I just want to point out, in response to something in the chat, so this API doesn't just work on the Kindle Fire, right? So if you install the Amazon App Store on, say, your Nexus 10 or Nexus 7, you would have access to games that use this.
Okay.
So it's tied to the App Store, not to the device.
So if and I have the Amazon App Store.
So the play here is to convince you not to use Google Play and to use the Amazon App Store. It's not about the Kindle Fire.
Because Black and Ganger, I don't know what Black Angle Glopper says is, the Kindle Fire is just not going to be an awesome gaming device. Or it was
right.
Sorry, it wasn't Glock and Ganger Blockum. But yeah, that's a good point.
Now, I don't know what the new metrics are, but I remember earlier in the year the Amazon App Store was outperforming the Kindle Fire in revenue by a pretty significant margin. Don't know if that's changed, and I'd be interested. I'm sure in January somebody will come out with a year-end review. But that would be why people support the Amazon App Store.
I think the App Store from Amazon is just not good.
I don't like it as much, and yes, call me a hippie Mac user. It simply doesn't look good. Play looks a lot better.
Yeah, well, and it's a little smoother, and being able to...
Yeah, and it scrolls properly.
It's just... And they're just moving it forward faster, yeah. But, there's something that we never talk about, and that's Desura. And have you ever looked at that? Because they have some interesting funding models, too.
I've never used Desura, because I always look at Desura, and then I look at Steam, or then I look at, a Humble Bundle. I never end up buying from Desura.
Right.
What is their pitch?
Well, the nice thing that they've got going is, so they're great for indie game developers, for a lot of reasons, or for people that want to buy indie games. But the thing that they do that's kind of neat is they will help, they've baked in crowdfunding that's like Kickstarter or Indiegogo or Games Planet with rewards for the players, and it's all integrated into the Desura store. So you can pre-order when people enter the alpha phase and sort of generate funding for that game through their alpha stage, and then when it's done, the game client just downloads it for you. And you can also, as a game developer, release little goodies as you go, and it's all integrated in there, and it manages all of that. So it makes it super easy for me as a consumer to go through and be like, oh yeah, I'll pre-fund this, and it's sort of like also aka pre-ordering it. And for the developer, it's generating them revenue just by having their listing in the Desura store and having target goals and things like that. So it's kind of neat. It's a neat idea.
So it's like a Kickstarter or a pre-purchase system
baked into like a Steam experience. So it's like you can buy games, you can buy fully baked games, you can pre-fund games, all that kind of stuff. And it seems to have been successful for.
And I guess the pitch was that they supported Mac and Linux in addition to Windows.
Windows and Linux right now.
Well, I see a Mac section here, Mac games.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. I guess they do support Mac. I didn't know.
So I wonder what, if anything's, going to happen to them.
Well, they've been around for a little while now.
So they're not... Okay. I mean, I've just never used them.
Yeah, they're not huge.
Yeah.
But they've got, I mean, for the topic of today's game, they've got a lot of really great indie games on there. And it's a neat way for people to
distribute a game for sure.
And get money.
Money's good.
And it was available for Linux before Steam. So
they have a very Android 4.0 UI. I like it.
Very honeycomb. Or, no, I guess that 3. Whatever. So, it's, I don't know, it doesn't quite compare to Steam's Greenlight like you've mentioned, but it's sort of, it's an easier to get into system. It's worth checking out. You could download the client and just browse the store. You can also.
All right, Chris. So if you were doing Chris Fisher's Revenge or something, where you hunt down monsters in the Freedoms dimension, where would you publish that? So you can only pick 2.
Can only pick 2 stores, 2 platforms, or I would probably. It would depend on the game. If it was, if it was a mobile game.
Let's say it's your hardcore FPS.
Whoa, Steam. I would do Steam. Yeah, I think so. If they would let me, if they would have me. Otherwise, but if they wouldn't have me, that's probably where Desura comes in.
Oh, so is that kind of Desura's pitch in the market? They're a little more easygoing than Steam?
I think so.
Fair enough.
That's just kind of my impression.
Fair enough. And again, to Desura folks, if you want to tell Chris he's a jerk, just email chris@jupiterbroadcasting.com.
Or if you're a developer who's had success with Desura or a failure, email the show, coderradio@jupiterbroadcasting.com.
And if you're the lady from Ouya who wants to punch me in the throat, email alan@jupiterbroadcasting.com.
She does seem to be a little aggressive, a little angry in that video. I noticed that. All right, well, I have a couple of games I'd like to talk about if you're ready for them.
Talk about some games.
So you talk about some indie games. Now, do you? I have a little confession to make, so I can hold mine if you have something you want to jump into first.
No, I want to hear your confession.
Well, I already told you on the pre-show stream, but I was doing a little show research as a good podcaster that I am, and I ended up funding 2 Kickstarter projects and buying another game just while looking into these because they're so cool. So maybe I'll start with the one that I literally just bought as we were going on. Actually, we were on air when I bought it, and it's called Vessel. And
Vessel?
It is
okay.
Liquid Living Machines, and it just looks so cool. Here, I'll play a little bit of the.
Wait a minute.
A little bit of the trailer, and it's an invention game, and it's guess what? Surprise, surprise! It's sort of a puzzle side-scrolling type game. You build, you assemble, those kinds of things. I don't know if side-scrolling is the right description, but it's not a 3D first-person type shooter game. I've discovered that I'm more of a platformer.
Chris, breaking news.
What's that?
Turns out I accidentally bought this game as well.
Yeah, it was part of a bundle. Did you get one of the Humble bundles that had it in there?
It was number 6. So anybody, and I would be curious for the audience for the feedback. Does anybody else do what me and Chris do and just not realize what we bought? Until somebody says, "Hey, check out this game," and it's like, you've already purchased that. Oh.
So yeah, I went to buy this game and I realized I already had it, and but I redeemed it through Steam now, so I have it through Steam, and I think it's available for Windows, Mac, and Linux. And what I love about these types of games is sometimes for me, I just kind of for gaming, I don't know if relax is the right term, but I don't want to stress out.
Right, I'm the same way. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is great because it's like. You get that little reward sensation when you figure out the puzzle, and you're like, oh, that's what it is, and it's sort of like this little accomplishment charge that you get, and I think that's one of the reasons I like these kinds of games. So that was Vessel. I just picked that up.
Chris,
I'm sure.
What is the Humble THQ bundle? Somebody just shot me a message about.
So the Humble THQ bundle, or it's not. The Humble THQ bundle. Have you heard? You know the company THQ?
Yeah, I don't think that fits. I mean, they're going out of business.
Yeah,
but I don't think that fits
and
the model.
This wasn't like a standard Humble indie bundle sale they did. This was a special bundle of THQ games that helped generate revenue for the company. And it wasn't like you buy them and they're all DRM and you get DRM free and you get all the goodies. It was
even when filing Chapter 11, they keep their DRM.
Yeah, and so people weren't very happy about it, but we'll see what happens. All right.
So would you like to talk about Rock Hard?
Yes.
I was surprised that wasn't the first one out the gate.
This is Big Daddy 427 requesting permission to land.
Big Daddy 427, you're clear to land. Hangar 31R. Caution.
So the voice, if
Welcome back, John.
see if he talks here a little bit. Oh no. The voice is the guy that did Duke Nukem. And I guess it's called Rochard, not Rockhard, like I've been calling it. But it's probably one of my favorite games ever. Maybe not ever, but definitely in the last few years. It is, again, it's a side scroller, and the mission is sort of you get the worst case scenario. You're out and you're asteroid mining, and some shenanigans go down, and you're the only guy there to take care of it. You got to help out your friends, and it's fun because you end up using a combination of grappling technology, a blaster gun, mines, and my favorite part, some cool gravity controls where you manipulate gravity by holding down shift and jump around from place to place. It's so much fun. Now you played with it for a couple of minutes.
Yeah, I played it for a few minutes. I was impressed with some of the technical. So I was playing it on a Mac. Haters gonna hate. But I was playing it in Windows mode, and a lot of the time, games on Mac, and I remember this used to be an issue in Linux as well, and I'm sure it still is, don't perform as well in windowed mode as they might in full screen.
Yeah, sure.
So I was pretty impressed with how smooth it was, considering I had the stream running and I had Skype running.
I play it windowed a lot. It's a Unity game, so it uses the Unity engine, and it's available. I first bought it through the Humble Bundle, and then I claimed it like through the Software Center for Ubuntu and Steam and all that kind of stuff. I gotta tell you, man, I've sat here. The other thing that's really great about it is it's not overly violent. I mean, yes, there's guns in it, but there's no like blood spill and stuff like that. So I played it with my 3-year-old here in my lap for hours, and he just loved watching it and, you know, figuring out the puzzle with me. And the colors are very vibrant, and every level is very unique. It feels like its own new idea, and you're like, oh, how did they think of that? You're constantly like, oh, look what they did here. They're always getting you with that kind of stuff. So rogue hard, rush hard, rogue hard.
Hello?
Yeah. What?
I feel that I lost you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Does Vessel, just going back, you said that was cross-platform?
Yeah. Yes. At least I'm not positive, actually, now that I think about it, because
it doesn't seem to be in Steam.
I think it's available for Windows and the Mac. I don't know if it's available on the...
Coming shortly.
Okay.
For Mac and Linux.
Yeah. Oh, it's available. It is available for the Mac, because I downloaded it before the show.
It says coming shortly on mine.
Why do they have to lie to us like that? I'm telling you, I'm looking at it right here.
Unfortunately, so I'm on their
side.
Oh,
I know, I'm lying. I downloaded another game. Yeah, I'm a huge liar. Don't listen to me.
Right. They said they had some issues. It's not ready.
Yeah, I'm full of crap. But
yeah. Well done.
Yeah, I know.
Breaking hearts of Linux and Mac users everywhere.
So I also funded a couple of games this morning.
Oh, no.
But I thought before I talked about them, also Vessel is available for Linux. I have it via Humble Bundle. I thought so. It's weird. Whatever. Check it out.
Just the Mac port? I see how it is.
Maybe. We'll see. Should we talk a little bit? I don't think this came out in 2012, but that we didn't make that rule. We didn't make that rule. Just as far as an indie game goes that really impressed me, Braid always gets an honorable mention, but Limbo.
Sure. You know, I kind of like Limbo better than Braid. I know that's not a popular opinion, but...
Oh, I kind of agree. It's got a very interesting style to it, and at first you look at it, it's all black and white, and you think, oh, they're just being lazy. You know, they're just trying to make something where they don't have to...
pay in a graphics designer.
Yeah. I don't think that's what it is at all, though.
No, they definitely paid a lot for this.
Yeah. The design is really stunning, and, you know, as I play it, it's interesting how they're able to communicate with just light and objects, and so I'm able to look at a scene and figure out what I'm supposed to do, even though it's all just black and white and very dark.
This is one of the better games. Now, this was 2011, not 2012.
I know. Like I said, we didn't make a rule. We didn't say no 2011 games. I just wanted to give them a plug, because I haven't really talked about them very much.
So, fair enough.
All right, now...
so I have a few picks.
Yeah.
What's your Kickstarter?
No, I've dominated. You go ahead, and then I'll go back to it.
All right, so I'm going to try and keep it with more modern. I'm not going to mention, older games.
Okay.
Super Meat Boy, which I think is 2012, maybe late 2011.
Awesome, though.
Cross-platform. I have it on, I should say had, since the XPS is dead.
No.
Windows, Ubuntu, Mac, and I actually have it on XBLA. Great game. If you like hard old school platformers, and there's a big emphasis on that hard.
Yeah, that should be that's an important point to clarify. It is really hard.
Yeah, it's obscenely difficult.
Yeah. There's a genre of game like that, and just before you move from super hard, I just want to give a quick honorable mention to FTL, Faster Than Light.
Right.
Which is a realization of a childhood dream I had, where you command the starship from all the inside nitty-gritties, but it's very hard. It's ridiculously hard.
Yeah. I haven't played it yet, though. But I've heard. Another pick, I would say, is the Capcom, the Mega Man vs. Street Fighter. Mm-hmm. And this is a nice story. This was a fan-made game that Capcom actually picked up and started distributing. It is just like old Mega Man, except even harder. Yes, it's Windows only, unfortunately, but it's a very small exe. I think it's only like 30 megs.
I just pulled up the trailer for it here, and it's really new, isn't it?
Very new. This is maybe a week old.
25th birthday.
Oh.
All right, so I'm going to jump ahead and look at a little bit of the gameplay here. Here we go. And go. Oh, this is great.
Yep.
Oh, so it's Mega Man fighting the different Street Fighter characters. So
exactly, yeah. But there's full levels, so it's just like the old Mega Man formula of fighting through a platforming level and then fighting a boss.
Love it. That is so great. What is it about these side scrollers? Is it just because we're old? Is that what it is?
I think that's what it is, because I showed it to some younger folks and they looked at me like, why would you play this?
And I mean, I've just noticed like all of my favorite games right now are pretty much side scrollers, and it makes me worried that I'm an old man who can't appreciate newer things. And I'd like to test you on that. Are you ready for a test?
Test me.
All right. So this game is called Cube World.
Cube World.
And if you see it, your first thought might be it looks kind of like Minecraft.
Based exploration RPG. It's best described as a mashup of Minecraft, Legend of Zelda, and MMOs such as World of Warcraft. The entire world is randomly generated as you explore and contains many different zones, from jungle temples to desert pyramids. A dynamic world map will keep you from getting lost as you explore the roads that lead to new and interesting places. Brave the depths of ancient tombs, or take siege the orc-infested castles. This game's focus is to allow the players to create their own RPG adventure, and moves away from the traditional block-building format of Minecraft. Though the landscapes are destructible, your damage is permanent, as you cannot pick up and replace blocks.
How cool is that?
Combat appears to have much strategy and depth.
That
with
looks
many abilities
pretty
at players'
cool.
disposal.
Is that now? What are we talking about in terms of? By the way, I like how the Minecraft formula is now the traditional formula.
I know, right?
It's a very new tradition.
You know, though, when I saw Minecraft, I thought we're gonna have so many games inspired by this, and this really is. It's an RPG Minecraft MMO.
But this, I feel like this isn't a clone. I feel like this is a legitimate inspiration.
Okay, so that's what I was wondering. I think so too. I think it's dangerously close to the clone in terms of
visually.
Look.
It's dangerously close. I think they could have. Now, if they tell me it's written in 100% Java, yes, I had to do it. I'll say it's too close. So what is it? Is this a Unity? Is this something I can run cross-platform?
I don't know.
I
just found it this morning. I'll do a little digging. It's called Cube World, and I believe it's up for funding right now. And I'll dig around.
This is Kickstarter. This is not something you can purchase.
I don't know. I'll check. I think so. I actually was so impressed by the video when I came across it that I kind of stopped right there. But maybe not. I don't know. It's hard to say. I'll look around and see if I can find it, because it's in development, I believe. Yes. I'm reading the guy's blog right now. He's got a lot of screenshots, so it's very far along. Holy crap! This whole blog is just nothing but a whole bunch of freaking screenshots. It's really nice looking. It's if you're listening to the audio version, think of Minecraft, but with maybe a little more cell shading. You know, a little nicer of a look.
It looks a little. If you remember Zelda Wind Waker, the worst version of Zelda, other than Zelda 2. Yeah. It has that kind of color palette.
They mentioned Zelda. Yeah. They have a little bit of inspiration from Zelda in the and they're gonna have hang gliders, dude. They're gonna have hang gliders, which looks awesome.
So this could be a pretty cool game.
Cube World will naturally draw many comparisons to Minecraft for its cube-like tendencies, but the video uncovers a much quicker, more combat-heavy take on an open world. Oh yeah, combat's a huge part of it too.
Yeah, and that's where I think it.
Wolfram Van Funk is the creator. Here's his basically his main page is his Twitter account and his blog. That's why it's kind of hard to find info. I'll link to his Twitter account in the show notes, because that's kind of seems to be his main page.
Did you see the FAQ?
No.
I'm going to skip the first question because it's legit.
Okay.
Where can I download the game? You can't download it yet because it's still in development. When will the game be released? When it's done. Will it be free? No.
All right, so there you go. It is early in the, but I mean, like, looking at this blog, he's got nothing but screenshots on this thing. Yeah. Right? Gosh, this looks really good, too.
It looks like they're in an alpha or maybe just before alpha, but it looks like, I mean, I'm seeing a lot of varied worlds here in these screenshots.
24,000 followers on the old Twitter account, and he's been written up at PC World and a few other places. So here, I'll toss a link to his Twitter.
Now, this is a Kickstarter. Can you throw a link to the Kickstarter as well?
I don't know if it is a Kickstarter.
Oh.
I didn't see anything on his blog about that.
Wait, this isn't what you backed? What did you back?
Oh, I know. Yeah, no, this is just one that I found. No, so you want to hear about the two that I backed?
Yeah, what'd you back?
All right, well, I'll talk about the first one that I backed. I haven't mentioned on air yet, so I'll talk about this one first. I own the first edition of this. It's Galacon, and this is going to be Galacon 2. I don't know if I'm getting the pronunciation of that right. Probably not, because it's me. Let's see, do I have it? You might recognize it just from the sound.
A journey into the future begins.
Ooh, it's a journey into the future. So it's a multiplayer real-time strategy game where you try to dominate the universe by sending as many of your ships as possible. Then the more worlds that you overcome, you then can launch more bad guys from, or your own guys from, and then overcome more worlds. And it's got a really neat multiplayer element to it. And now he wants to take it to the next level, make it available for the desktop, make it available for touch. It's an amazing touch game. I mean, this was like one of the first ones like, oh, gaming can work on an iPad. This is actually doable. And so, I mean, it would work fine with the mouse too, and I'll probably grab it for the PC. But I love the fact that you have an indie developer who's made this really kind of fun, almost relaxing kind of game that still has a lot of great strategy. You can easily pick up and do a little Wi-Fi multiplayer right out of the gate. Boom, you want to play this? Let's do it. It syncs up super easy. And he's just a dude by himself. So I threw in for the $10 pledge. Nothing major, but I get early access to the beta and stuff like that. So here you have it. It's called Galacon 2. And if you've played Galacon 1, or if you haven't, Galacon 1 would be great to go grab. Galacon. There you have it. That's the first one I funded. Now, the second one I funded. I've mentioned this one on air. I think I plugged it on the Linux Action Show once, so it's not too much of a surprise, but I thought about it a little bit, and I'm actually one of these guys where I think I'm more likely to fund something after it's reached its goal. Like, because then I kind of know what's going to happen.
There's a lot of people who do that.
Right.
That's so weird. Yeah.
Well, because like if it's still open, I want to get in on it because I know it's going to happen, and I want to get a good price, right? So, Limit Theory. That's where I decided to go with Limit Theory, an infinite procedural space game. It had an initial goal of $50,000. It's now at $151,000 with 3 days left to go. They've announced they're going to have Linux support now. They've reached funding for the Linux support, and I thought, okay, well, now they're not holding Linux hostage. You know, they're just going to do it. I'm going to fund it. And the idea is it's a sandbox space exploration game that is infinitely expansive. It is a game you could set up and play for 5, 10, 15 years if you wanted to. And it would just keep growing. You would keep dominating, building, exploring, discovering resources, all that kind of stuff. JBViewer6 in the chat room says he also backed it after it was mentioned on the Linux Action Show. And I don't know, I'm pretty impressed with the idea, the look of it. I'm really longing for a really good sit back, relax, and play a space game that, you know, I can put up on my 30-inch cinema display and just sort of bask in its glory and, you know, feel like I'm sitting in a cockpit, maneuvering a starship and those kinds of things. So I don't know. I have high hopes, and the fact that they're adding Linux support and the fact that I've actually had some success with Kickstarter games at this point kind of all added up for me to go ahead and throw in. And they're moving right along. They've got a lot of demo videos up. They've got alphas ready to go, I think.
Follow me. So I'm going to go over here in this little asteroid pocket, and they're going to follow me. Hopefully.
Look at him. He's flying around inside space, moving around asteroids, dodging bad guys.
Nice looking asteroid.
How do you not just love this?
That looks pretty good, actually.
Yeah. So I threw in $40 because at $40 I get they're going to give me maps of the known areas, which I think would be a huge leg up. I think this is an interesting element too. You know, give me a little Benny to enhance my gameplay. That to me was, I don't need because they have other things where you get stickers and magnets. I don't need any of that stuff. But if you can give me stuff that's going to make me enjoy the actual game more, that's a great perk. And so I threw in for that.
There they are, attacking.
All right.
As I asked them to.
It looks pretty good. It's tough to find a good space flyer.
Yeah, and see, he's working with little worker drones here, and he's assigning them to go do tasks in the field and stuff. I think it could be a lot of fun. We'll see. The other thing that's interesting about this project is I think I'd have to double check, but I think he's not even saying we're going to get anything until 2014 possibly. So he's being really upfront about how long it's going to take.
Okay, well that's realistic too. I mean that's just looking at the scope from what you've shown. Right.
Well, he's been working on it for a while, but yeah. So those are the two that I funded this morning before the show.
Fair enough. So, Chris, I have a mobile pick.
Ooh, good on you. What is it?
Both iOS and Android. So everybody should be happy. And I was playing it for 3 hours last night. It's called Plague Inc. by Endemic Creations. I can link it in the chat.
Okay. Plague Inc.
Now, it is a strategy game, so if you're not into that sort of thing. If you're more of a shooter fan, this might not be for you.
Okay.
But you are a virus or bacteria or some kind of pathogen. And your goal is to wipe out humans, period. You have to evolve yourself and spread yourself quickly enough so where you're moving fast enough and being deadly enough to kill enough people that the humans have no time to react. The other issue is if you spread too slowly, if you become too deadly too quickly, you'll freak out the richer nations, which tend to be England, is a pain. And Great Britain will develop a cure and you lose.
Oh, bummer.
So it's a race against the clock kind of thing. It's kind of complex because you can tailor your genetic code to be more susceptible to certain types of people. So people who live in rural areas, people in poorer areas, people in richer areas, people in cities.
Great.
Yeah. It's a very it doesn't sound like it should be so compelling, but a friend recommended it and I've been playing it nonstop.
I could see how the whole strategy element of it, of trying to figure out what nations to target and all that could be a lot of fun because...
There's also a geopolitical... for instance, England is... And I keep focusing on the Great Britain because they keep messing things up for me. They are very unwilling to do things that would hurt Europe or the United States. But they will cut off trade with Africa so fast that if you started there, you're done. And the same thing for South America. They will just cut it off.
I like how they have like little mock news reports too.
Yeah.
An outbreak was detected and yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and so as you progress and become more frightening, the governments will either collapse or start to take drastic measures. So I got into a situation where a certain Eastern European country decided to start killing anyone infected.
Oh.
The cure is all that matters now.
Yeah.
It evolves so damn fast, but we are close. We just need more time.
That's great.
Now, to be clear,
only the strongest can survive.
Yeah, you're the disease.
Right.
You are not trying to save humanity.
That's such an interesting and fun take on it because, the trope is you're always the hero, right? So it is kind of fun to change it.
It's surprisingly complicated. So if you beat the bacteria level, you become a virus.
How is this free? It's 99 cents in the iTunes store and it's free for the Android?
Yeah, but I think on Android there's like ads and you have to buy it right now.
F that, I'm going to buy it right now anyways. Let's check it out. I'm going to put it on my Nexus 7. Boom. Yeah. Just got it.
I was playing it on the iPad, but I have it on the 7 as well. Hours, and for 99 cents, hours of gameplay.
Totally.
This game is longer than the Call of Duty campaign. That was $60. I kind of want to play it right now.
Now I know we're kind of running out of time. Can I give a couple of honorable mentions?
Let's do some honorable mentions.
Spelunky on Xbox Live. If you have an Xbox, Spelunky. Some people in some indie game forums are calling it possibly indie game of the year. So I don't know. I haven't gotten my hands on it. My Xbox.
I play it quite a lot. It's very, very good. Again, it's one of those deceptively hard games.
Yeah, I can see that. See that. And it's also, by the way, big surprise here on this one coming from us. It is a side-scroller platformer game. Oh man, it does look good though.
Yep.
Oh yes, it's like everything that Mario would be if they were to come out with Mario right now, plus a bunch of other games. So that's really cool.
It's like Mario and Bomberman had a wonderful Indiana Jones themed baby.
Yeah, it's exactly right. That's exactly what it's like with cannons. And then probably just because I've heard a lot of really good things about it from folks. And this is another one of those. This might be the game of the year. Mark of the Ninja.
I've heard of this. I haven't gotten a chance yet.
Mark of the Ninja, again, another side-scroller platformer, but I think at this point, I don't know if it's available on the 3 Sizzle, but it is on Windows, and I've heard rumors that it's going to get ported to the Linux operating system. Because he's got 9.5 out of 10 from various review magazines.
It's asking for my birthday. That's how I know it's good.
Yeah, and the environments for a side-scroller are so detailed and textured. It's sort of like Blade Runner in where you just if you look at the scene, there's just so much going on. So, anyways, that's Mark of the Ninja.
So it's XBLA and Windows only. It looks like.
Yeah. But I've heard rumors that it might come over to the Linux, so you never know.
They're Linux.
Yeah, the GNU/Linux.
No.
Yeah, no, not on that one. Oh, okay. So yeah, and also it looks good. I think 2013 looks good for indie games on Ubuntu because a lot of the Kickstarters that I was looking at, they say, and we're targeting Ubuntu. So I think that's going to be a great platform.
I think that's going to generate a lot of hate, though. We're targeting Ubuntu.
Yeah, but that's just because that's what's going to sell.
Yeah. What's interesting? A lot of these games have actually come out on XBLA.
Yeah.
More than I thought.
I know. That's what I'm saying is I'm wondering if things got a little easier over there.
Maybe they got a little lighter.
And
I know the Fez guy was complaining that he had a bug that he wanted to patch, and they wanted $40,000 to submit the patch and not necessarily approve it.
Now, see, for that same... that's just not going to fly.
I could buy a relatively nice car for that.
Yeah, that's not going to... That won't fly. That just... Yeah.
So that's why I'm...
It just could depend. I mean, it could depend on the game, too. I don't know. For $14, though, I know I just was giving a bunch of props to the Ninja game. But for $14, you could also pick up Trine 2. I know we already mentioned it.
Now, Trine 2 is on Windows still, only.
No. Oh, no, I've been playing it under Linux quite a bit.
You know what? Why is Mac the third class? Oh, Trine 2. I'm thinking Torchlight 2.
Yeah, you're thinking it. Unfortunately, Torchlight is not. No, yeah. No, but Trine 2 is available for all of them.
Trine 2 is great.
And Trine, just real quick, I know people have heard of it. It's like the biggest little indie game in the show, probably. But you play 3 characters: a wizard, a marks. What do you call it when you shoot a bow and arrow? I forget what
archer.
An archer, and then you also play like a knight, a big, rough knight. It's just a beautiful game, and each character has their own type of play style and ability, like magic or whatever. It's just captivating. It's every level is just so rich and so beautiful, and it's $14. Plays on everything. They have the sync, the Steam Cloud sync, if you get it through Steam. So, if you haven't played it, it really is one. It's worth checking out. All right, so there you go. I had a list. I had a list I wanted to burn through.
You had a list. You checked it twice.
Yeah. So check out all of those, and we should have links to most of these.
I think we will in the show notes.
Yeah, sure. All right, Mr. Well, any other ones we need to cover before we get out of here?
No, I think we're good. I just want to do a quick little announcement. So for any new listeners, this is not the normal show format.
We should have said that at the beginning.
Yeah, we should be back to a more regimented show, I think. When do we actually come back, Chris? Do you know?
Well, so we haven't really totally decided, but so we're not here next week. That's why we're recording this episode now. The next episode after that's the 31st. That works for me, but if we need to take another week, we can.
Yeah, noon on the 31st, noon on New Year's Eve. That works.
Yeah, okay. So we'll be back. We'll be back on our regular schedule on the 31st.
Actually, I take it back. I can't promise the normal format that day. But in January,
right. I had a good time with this, and I guess we're gonna have a big announcement then too, right?
Hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, we'll tell people more about it very soon. But episode 30 of Coda Radio could contain an epic announcement. You never know. But in the meantime, Mr. Dominic, when people want to send you some holiday wishes or New Year's wishes and things like that, where can they find you?
You can find me on Google Plus or Twitter at Dumanuko.
Of course, we have links to those in the show notes. And we do want to say thank you everyone who's joined us this year and will be joining us next year. And I hope you have a great holiday and a great New Year's. And we'll be back on the 31st for our regular episode on Mondays at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern over at jblive.tv, and available for download later on. This episode will be out on Mondays. Of course, if you're listening to this, you already know that. All right, Mr. Dominic, well, thanks for the great show.
Good night.
All right, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in this week's episode of Coda Radio. See you right back here next week.